Oh, thank you. One sound for our troops abroad and their families here at home. Thank you. So we have two presentations. First one, every other month we do a first responder of the month. And this year's first responder, or this month's first responder month, I'll bring up now, is George. Come on, sit usually have like bright yellow. All right. Everyone know George? No. In a typical week, in addition to working full-time for the Department of Public Works, George answered over a dozen first aid and fire calls. In the last month, George responded to 2 active fire scenes preventing damage to homes and injury to our citizens. The word no is not in George's vocabulary. And while it may seem more appropriate that we bestow some sort of an award on his wife and children, on behalf of Belmar, we truly don't know what we'd do without George. So let's hear it for George. He also gets $100 to spend anywhere in Belmar. If you know George, he knows all the stores in Belmar. He also gets a hat, and we get to put his picture up on the Route 35.
That's really caught me by surprise, but I just love this town. I love the guys I work with. The $100 is going to treat you guys for food. So I love this town. I just love working for this town. I love coming to work every day and punching in. I really can't say. I love Nancy from the first.
We need a picture of him, so someone make sure
we'll get the picture.
I'll get the picture.
George, we love you too.
Next, we have an outstanding Department of Public Works here in Belmar, and we have a new addition to that. And before we announce who that is, I want to bring up our DPW Director, Mike Allen.
Yeah, Mike.
You want to say a few words, Mike?
Start with?
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank all the guys for being here. When we hear somebody else is being hired or somewhere, we're replacing somebody, we did have a vacancy, so we did hire Gene Kelly. And all the guys wish to come up, show their support. And these are the things that make these guys such a great group to work with. There is a brotherhood there now. They do help each other. And I have one quick story about Gene I want to tell, and it's probably stealing the mayor's thunder. Do you want to tell the story? Or
Yeah, I want to tell the story.
All right. I won't tell the story. I am very proud. I know, I'm sorry. But I have known Gene since he's been a little boy. I had the pleasure of coaching him when he was young in football. Bruce, who is his father now, I've known for my whole life, and I couldn't be prouder. His brother, Larry Kelly, we were also fortunate enough to have working in our police department. Now we have Gene, and the 2 brothers, both you, and ma'am, Vivian, you should both be proud of both your children. They're tremendous kids, and I couldn't be prouder to have them working with us. So I was very pleased and happy to get Gene, and I am more proud of him than I am of most, almost like my son, as you know. I love the kid.
Gene, you want to come up? Let's hear for Gene. And we have Gene's official ID. So here's the story about Gene. So I was at lunch at La Terraza. Everyone knows what that is on Ocean Avenue between 4th and 5th. And I saw a bunch of DPW guys across the street, and this was, I think, towards the beginning of the summer. And all of a sudden, I saw a guy running from 4th Avenue to 5th Avenue with a shovel in his hand. Mr. Kelly. And all the guys I was running with, I'm like, look at that guy. See that guy? That's Belmar DPW employees right there. And they were all impressed, and as equally as I was. He didn't know I was there, which is a good lesson for all DPW guys. You never know when we're watching. But I think it makes a great impression. I also think that it speaks a lot, about the type of Department of Public Works we have now. We have great leadership there. We have a great team. And if I could, you want to say a few words actually? Sure.
I'd like to thank the mayor, Colleen, council, and I look forward to serving the community. Of course, my fellow coworkers. Thank you.
Now, if I could, and I know this is sort of going to take a minute or two to get it, but I'd love to get the entire DPW up here for a picture. Can you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Before you get up, I just want to say real quick, for your Christmas lighting, which is going to be this Friday, and I hope you all attend, just talking about how these guys are. When it was nice out last week, we started to get a jump on the lights because we knew the weather was nice. Today, when the weather was not so nice, it was freezing cold and wet, not one person complained, not one person. They all sat out there in the rain all day, had to deal with electric there, a couple got shocked. But again, there wasn't one complaint, not one, this is the right thing, everybody knew it was the right thing to do, so they're all happy. I went home and I bragged to my wife again about what a great group of guys I have. And I want the town to know, besides doing all the work and everything else, they do it, they want to serve Belmar, and they want to serve Belmar in a very cheerful manner. They're just good people, and if you don't get to know them, or you haven't gotten to know them, please do. They are a tremendous group and really care about this town as George does. George makes us all proud, and I mean that with all my heart. Besides being a great worker, he is a great first responder. You guys have no idea how many calls he goes to. That being said, when he goes to a call, somebody else has to pick up his slack. And they do it with no problems because he's serving the town, they're serving the town. So again, you are blessed with a great group. So I'm just telling you that. Come on up quickly,
Come on
boys.
up, guys.
Don't forget Joe Daniels.
Make him front and center.
That's the whole point.
I know.
Hi, Gene.
Hey, you gotta spread out, you gotta be in front. Short guys in the front.
All right, come in a little bit, guys. Mike and John and.
I know, me stand up by here.
Wait, Councilman.
We're supposed to be looking at
Yes, it's gonna be.
Get in.
Now, is it true we got the best looking Kelly in this picture?
All of the hands up in the front.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Should we do like my kids' first grade, now make a silly face?
Those are silly things.
Everybody, crash
Thank you,
position.
guys.
Thanks for the knowledge, Colin.
You're right.
You guys know rock. See ya. The answer is all the time.
There's 5 pictures you didn't want.
That's my smile.
She really criticizing your smile. All right, next is our workshop discussion. First item is the zoning board of adjustment recommendations. Council members had an opportunity to look at, any questions? Thoughts?
Why is he sending this to us? Does he anticipate some type of problems with some of these houses going up that maybe he's experienced from other towns?
This has been an annual process. He usually sends us a letter near the end of the year. After Sandy, it was pages long, right? And it made a lot of recommendations about elevations and tweaks to building code that we can make to help people rebuild faster. So now, when I got the letter, I said it's refreshing to see only 2 items on the list. So these were just observations that the board has made over the course of their year, things that might be good to consider. They're not necessarily active problems right now. It just might be good government for you to consider in the new year.
Well, the Board of Adjustment just is for zoning
Yes,
variances, right?
correct.
So does this really require a variance, what he's recommending today?
The first part does it. Actually, what happened is at the last meeting, we had an application where someone was raising their house and they decorated the bottom very nicely. And the board was like, why doesn't everyone else do this? Because then it doesn't look like a solid foundation. And the architect who represented them said that there are towns who adopted ordinances that require you to use a decorative siding or something else to mask. So it just looks like the house is being continued and not a giant foundation.
It's not like you can look under the house and see the house behind you.
Right.
Like you can in some places down there.
Right, or you see what people store under it too.
Yeah.
I think he said it was Neptune, City or Township, one of them adopted an ordinance.
And anything that we do here makes it easier for the zoning board in seeing their applications.
Hey, you sat on this one.
I sat on the zoning board for 8 years, and some strange things come in, and people don't quite understand why the zoning board is asking for something. But if something is adopted by the council, such as this, then it makes their life, the zoning board's life, a little bit easier, I think. That, not for most of the people, but there might be just
You
one.
know, it occurs to me that it might end up helping the values, resale values of the houses. If say they raise, if they look nicer than just bare pilings or whatever's underneath, it might be easier for them to sell. And it would definitely be easier for properties around them, you know, just be more attractive, you know, from a real estate point of view. That's, like, to me, is quite a possibility. Although, I'm not much for telling people what they have to do there. It's definitely more aesthetic. It's not structural, it's not protecting the environment around, or anything like that. But it, you know, it would probably actually help them out if they had it.
He's just recommending something very general. Sure, it sounds great, but does he have specific recommendations of how it should be, how these other people have designed it, or should that go before the technical design review board?
That would probably go to the planning board to actually draft the
Yeah,
language of the
it's
ordinance.
change in zoning.
Right.
Before us.
So they could come up with something specific, say
like lattice.
lattice or something like that. I mean, we can say great, but
Right.
I don't think we can really vote on something until it's
Presents to us.
specific, right?
Well, I think the way it works, right, we do introduction of an ordinance, then it goes to the planning
Yes.
board for their comment and their
Input.
vote,
Input.
and it comes back to us. So they, you know, I guess it has to start with us, but then it goes to the planning board.
But the planning board, doesn't it, they push it off sometimes to the technical design board, right? And some of those people have some great recommendations.
We could certainly, I think
Well,
a nice starting.
TRC is more for redevelopment, right?
Well, what I think could be a nice step, if there's something in this letter that you think is interesting, that allows April and I to go research it. And what we could do is have a conversation with the planning board attorney, and talk about what could be a proposed ordinance that we could introduce in 2016. To
We
allow,
can look at what the other towns.
we can look what other towns are doing,
If
we
there
can
is
see
a
what
town.
kind of specifications, and it's at that point that maybe there's some
Right.
professional folks on our boards who could weigh in.
Good, good.
So if you want us to investigate that possible ordinance, we can tee that up for the new year.
It's worth looking at.
Yeah, see what other towns have,
Okay.
right? They said it.
And ask what problems other towns might have come across, that, you know, when they raise the houses with some of the people were trying to do underneath it that we wouldn't want. So let's not just come up with something that says what we want. We could also come up with something to say that, but we don't want, more comprehensive.
Okay, absolutely.
Something on the bottom that says vote McGovern. Is that what you're looking for, Ryan?
Or chicken in every pie.
All right. Anything else on this letter?
Didn't he,
No.
he have something on the back?
Yeah.
About
number two.
removing unused wires from.
Oh, yeah, what is that?
Yeah, the board has been actively trying to get the applicants to put their overhead wires underground if it's feasible. But they have noticed that in some areas, it's not feasible because of the water cable. So they were wondering if the engineer or anyone could reach out to the various utility companies and see if there are dead wires that are still up that could be removed, like that they're not active.
Didn't we find those, you found those on Main Street, right?
So less wires is good.
That's
We all agree. And so we work with individual utility companies to try to take down their wires that they no longer need, or oftentimes though, it's the smaller utilities. It could be kind of the television and cable companies where they loop extra wire up at the base. They could leave decommissioned wire in place because it doesn't cost them anything to leave it there.
Still cable wire.
Wherever it
hanging
costs
on.
money, I should take it down.
Correct, it costs them something to take it down. So I would put this in the same bucket as the first one. We could investigate what has worked in other towns, if that's something that you guys did want to proceed.
I think a couple of years ago, Steve Wolfer from the Environmental Commission approached us on this. And I think we met a lot of resistance from the utilities people. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, you can tell us, but we're not going to do it. So, I mean, I agree that there's too many wires up there, less wires are good, but I don't know how much power we have to make them.
We could even ask this question back to Kevin and maybe Doug Kovacs of what is legal in terms of practical enforcement. Have a look at
It's
it.
illegal for us to take them down ourselves and charge them on the back.
Yeah.
That is, but
Well, it's electric, we send up Captain Heisen, he can disconnect.
He's on a roll tonight. You better watch out, Mike, you might be next.
Anything on that letter, or?
No, I think it's good suggestions. You know, I think we can just get specifics and that would be better.
All right.
yeah.
2016 Marino rates, they essentially stay the same, 5% reduction if you pay in full early, and also you can lock it in for 2 years if you pay all 2 years up front.
Pretty much.
So no maintenance.
All right, sounds good. So that resolution is now included in, we'll vote to add it to your agenda.
We did reduce the jet ski though, right?
We
Yeah.
did. We decided to reduce the rate of the jet skis by $250, and also make it eligible for the 5% discount if you pay in full by January 29th, 2016. So we're gonna do a nice court press on the jet skis, and the other changes from there.
Now, that wasn't widely used this past year, but the jet skiers that did use it, was there any feedback from them? Do any of us know? Like, do they like the,
They do, they
The
like
slips?
the access, they like where they're located. I think it was a matter of, we could have marketed it better. This rate will help us to market it better. We didn't have them until fairly late in the
Yeah,
season,
late in
so
season.
it wasn't in our marketing materials and our push. So we're going to put a renewed focus on it this year.
Anything else on marina rates?
No, I think it's good. That's pretty much what they wanted.
Next is hot topic, seafood festival. Ooh, seafood festival.
I like lobster.
So, our last seafood festival was very well attended. And we've sort of gotten a lot of feedback from residents, and we've met with our Department of Public Works, Police Department, Tourism, and also just talking amongst ourselves, not in a formal sense, about adjusting the date. And the idea was to either put it after Labor Day or before Memorial Day. There's pros and cons to both, right? The weather's usually better after Labor Day, but a lot of times people are kind of done with the summer and summer events after Labor Day. Plus, we also have things like San Gennaro, and we had a very successful Oktoberfest. So we do have things that go into September and October. May is not nearly as much going on, but the weather can be pretty dodgy. Although, you know, we've had rain on the Seafood Festival as well. So, but I thought this would be a nice opportunity to sort of kick around the dates we're looking at. Did we want to throw out a date for the council?
Sure, we scrubbed through our calendars, both sides of the shoulder season. In the month of May, the one that falls most opportune is, I believe it's this third weekend, it's May 13th, 14th, and 15th. It's the week after Mother's Day, but 2 weeks before Memorial Day. So that is the week that would be best in terms of event execution here in town with logistics. So that was what we.
And I would tell you, there is a third option, and some people do advocate this, and that is just
Leave it there.
leave it where it is. Why, you know, make some fine tuning changes here and there, but leave it in June. So those are sort of the three options, would be May, leave it where it is, or September. So I think October maybe would be late. Again, September, it seems like people, again, the weather's better, but it seems like people are kind of done. And we still have events.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
It's very full.
It's
September is very full.
Whereas May is not as full, but the weather,
And I don't think anybody's ready for the lobster Oktoberfest.
so.
Thanks.
So what do council members think? Council President?
Well, I was there since the first one, and historically, it started out for many, many years, Saturday and Sunday. You said 13th, 14th, and 15th, you know, I don't know why we're doing Friday. It started out as that was gonna be the local night, but I'll tell you, the last couple of years, it has not been the local night. It's been the same people that come on Saturday and Sunday. And years ago, when it was Saturday and Sunday, I know the vendors started coming on maybe Friday evening, early Saturday morning. Last year, vendors were getting there on Thursday and parking there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I thought we would want to reduce the size of the seafood festival, not just move the dates, because I think we were getting too many people in town. I know when we started this, when we brought the seafood festival down from Newark, it was to give our beaches a shot in the arm, because the beaches were, you had the problem with the red tide and the beaches were having a problem with the medical waste and everything like that. But last year we shot ourselves in the foot with too many people. I'm right there in ground zero. I would like to see the size of the seafood festival reduced and the number of days back to Saturday and Sunday. And I'm in a minority, but I'm not the only one, but I really dislike fireworks. I don't see where fireworks have anything to do with the seafood festival at night. And the seafood festival started out with crafts and seafood, and we had last year vendors selling insurance and solar panels. And I don't see how that's a connection to, so maybe we can eliminate those type of things and just go back to crafters and food vendors. So that's my 2 cents. I know last year, I left on Saturday morning, didn't get back until Saturday afternoon, and I couldn't get to my house because the streets were blocked off at South Lake Drive and 8th Avenue and A Street and Ocean Avenue, and I had to go park my car at the Acme parking lot and walk home. So, and I'm sure I wasn't the only person in that South Lake Drive, 7th Avenue area that ran into that problem. So I would like to see the number of people coming to the seafood festival maybe the number of vendors reduced, the days reduced, no fireworks. But I like the seafood festival. I don't eat seafood, but, you know, I like the people coming to Belmar.
Gotcha. Councilwoman Kim Blackburn?
I like May better than September, just because there are other seafood festivals in September, down, I guess, in Tom's River, Point Pleasant maybe. And like you said, we've got San Diego now, which we didn't have until 3 or 4 years ago. So I think it's too much to have something else in September or October. October, we never know what the weather's going to be temperature-wise. I think we could calm down the marketing a little bit, and then maybe we wouldn't have so many people come. If we did have it on Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday, maybe we could not allow the vendors to come until 8 a.m. Friday morning or 9 a.m. Friday morning. So you cannot set up until a specific time on Friday. That should still give them enough time if they were looking at a 4 o'clock start. One suggestion I would have is to close 8th Avenue. If 8th Avenue runs straight from Ocean all the way to 35. If that street was closed except for residents who lived on 8th Avenue, they would be able to come in and out. That street could be used strictly for emergency vehicles. There's the first aid squad is down there with a couple of ambulances. If they need to zip up 8th Avenue to 35 to get up to the hospital, then there's no traffic on 8th. If we could do some parking outside of town, rent some parking lots and get a couple of buses to bus people in. So maybe no cars into Belmar unless you're a Belmar resident for those 2 days. That should help with major problems that we had last year, I would think. I know other big venues do that. They rent parking lots away from whatever the activity is, and they bus people back and forth. We have to advertise that, of course, to know where the parking was. We've done other places. As for the types of vendors that are there, I never bought their insurance or their solar panel anyway, but the more festive it is, I think the better. I don't buy the crafts there either, so some to see it. But I'd like to see us keep it going.
Will you like May? And Brian, would you prefer May?
Yeah, I think May is better. Yes, I prefer May.
Councilman Bryan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to preface my remarks with saying I'm not convinced that moving the dates isn't just trading one kind of headache for another. I mean, it could always rain in June. I think I agree with Council President McGovern. I think scaling back the size of the event is probably a smarter way to go, even if we decide to move it. I was involved with the Monmouth County Friends of Clearwater. I was on their festival committee when they had the festival out on Sandy Hook before they moved to Asbury Park. For about 15 years I did that, every summer. And we would have crowds of 10, 12,000 on Saturday and then again on Sunday. It's not exactly analogous to what we're doing here, but we dealt with some of the same kinds of issues. And a couple of things we could do. I like the idea of seeing about off-site parking and shuttles, but it is a lot of work. There's a lot of legwork setting that up, a lot of details that would have to be taken care of. And I think if we were to reduce the size of the festival, maybe that wouldn't be such an issue. One of the things when you're doing an outside event, you have to plan, really plan for, I don't want to call it the worst, but the kind of conditions we had this past year, where everything just sort of comes together and you get a perfect storm of just way too many people trying to come down for whatever reason. But it could always rain. I mean, that's the other thing. You got to be ready for, I mean, if we're planning on closing a street, we plan on it, but if we don't need to, we don't do it, right? Because it could rain. Again. putting it back to 2 days is a really, really good idea. I mean, the idea of having Friday night, the first year I remember it feeling like a locals night. I remember feeling like, okay, nobody knows about this except the people in town. And it was very sparsely attended. There weren't a lot of vendors yet either. But you could go over there, you could get something to eat. It was fine, and that was the only time it felt like that. After that, it just felt like, okay, we're starting early. Pretty much what Brian said. You don't need to have those 3 days as far as I can tell. Unless the idea is we're charging the vendors more. But that I don't know. I couldn't speak to that. One thing I would like to see about changing the nature of the event itself, one of the things I think that really, really, I know it freaked me out, I think freaks people out, is how crowded it gets where the food vendors are. Because the food vendors are all one across from the other in big rows. And if you walk over 2 more rows, you're in with the craft vendors and there's nobody there. So the craft vendors are, I heard a couple of craft vendors saying, you know, we're not doing, I asked them, how are you doing, how are you doing? Oh, we're not doing that great, it's okay, but you know. I couldn't imagine, except everybody was over in line trying to get food. I think one thing to do would be to change the way the actual setup of the festival itself is configured, and put food vendors either all around the outside in a horseshoe, if we're going to keep it on the same site, and that's something I'm going to speak to in a minute. If we keep it on the same site, we should put the food vendors all around in a horseshoe, and put the craft vendors inside that, somehow break it up so the food vendors aren't all one across from the other and you can't even tell what line you're pushing through to get to where you want to go buy the food. Because that's how it seemed. It was so wall-to-wall people, I couldn't even tell who I was walking by or what they were doing. That would, I think, make for freer flowing traffic, less of a sense of, oh my God, it's so crowded in here, and just a more pleasant experience for everybody who's attending the festival. One thing that occurred to me after we talked about moving it to May, or even to September, I mean, yeah, it could rain, but you could also be a beautiful day, which brings us another kind of a problem. Say we're down at the beach, down at the park, down by the beach, and it turns out it's a beautiful, beautiful weekend, second weekend in May, and people come down for the festival and say, oh, look, the beach is free, let's go. And we're not ready for that at all. We're not ready for that at all. We don't have our lifeguards on staff. We're not ready to take care of anything that might happen there. That's something we definitely need to consider, unless we're actually going to move the site of the festival. I mean, we had discussed maybe moving it over to Memorial Field, away from the beach. Honestly, if we're gonna do it outside of the season, I'd be more comfortable doing it away from the beach, over more in town. You know, because then you wouldn't have those, what I just expressed concern about. You know, that would be, but again, you could rain. See, that's what I mean. I don't know if necessarily even changing the date is gonna really solve a problem, as opposed to creating a new kind of problem we would have to deal with. I think reducing the size of the festival, and also, one other thing, it's my understanding that there was advertising done, and I don't know whether we were privy to that, or if we knew about it beforehand. I think what we need to do is just kind of reduce our market, that's the other thing. Reduce our market, so we're not, I mean, it's great to have people come into town. And I was really proud of the way Belmar looked and the way we handled it. And I thought the crowd was very, very well behaved, but it was just too big. It was just too big because of everything that happened, you know. Beautiful weather, we were really reaching out. I think maybe just bring it down a little bit, take it down a notch. We don't have to make it be the biggest thing. I mean, we've done a really good job, our tourism commission has done a really good job of promoting the town, and this has been one of the events that's really, really done that. And I wouldn't be able to speak to whether any of those people that came down for the seafood festival ever came back to go to the beach, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if quite a few of them did, because we attract a very diverse community to our beaches in the summertime. You can see it when you're down there. That might be one of the ways that people know about Belmar. do that. So that's, those are my thoughts. I tend to feel, leave it where it is and try to make that work more the way we want it to. Like I said, moving it outside of the season, you have a different set of headaches.
So Councilwoman Nicolay is not here with us tonight, but she sits on the Belmar Business Partnership, and I thought it'd be useful to have a comment from someone who's on that. Tom Burke is with us in the audience, sits on the BVP. Do you want to come up and give us any thoughts that you may have on it?
Totally off guard there.
Well, you heard what everyone was saying.
I heard what everyone was saying, and I think everybody had very good comments. I agree with Brian and his debate. I like what Mr. Brennan had to say. I think there's some great comments there. One of the things I was sort of interested in is I think Janice brought up the idea of shuttling people in. And it's interesting that that's one of the things that we're doing in the BVP is investigating the possibility of working with the people of Monmouth County, coming up with some ways to do that. We're at the beginning stages. I've talked to a couple of the business people here in Belmar about the possibility of doing that. I'm on the County Transportation Council. I've sort of talked about it there, and there's some interest in coming up with some solutions that would perhaps alleviate some of the parking problems that we have. That's one of the biggest problems is parking and the numbers of people that came. And like I said, it was a perfect storm last year. I was quite outspoken right afterwards, saying we need to have a moratorium on this until we figure it out. And I guess the months that have passed sort of served that purpose. And I'm very pleased with the comments that I heard, and hope everybody can move forward on that. And while I was sitting back, there's one thing I did want to say, that it seems like the tourism people have sort of taken a hit on this. And I've always taken the position that they did their job. The job of the tourism people was to get people to town. And I think, to that extent, they did a very good job. Too good. And, unfortunately, and I agree that we have to scale it back, so figure out a way to scale it back. I don't see the need for 3 days either. Those are just some random thoughts I have on it.
Well, what would you think the business community would think about Councilman Brennan's idea of possibly moving into like Memorial Field closer to Main Street?
Good question. I know this year, a lot of the vendors, a lot of the business owners on Main Street felt that their business suffered because of the seafood festival rather than benefited from it. We're in Memorial Park, there's a stronger likelihood that they would benefit from it, but I'm not sure that that's why people are coming to town. What the business owners found this year was that their regular customers couldn't get to the stores and get to Taylor Hardware to buy their screws or get to Don's Pizza to pick up their pizza, whatever they wanted to do, the regular customers. And the people that were coming to the seafood festival, it's not the same. They're not looking for the same thing. That's not why they're here. So, I think I tend to agree that the best place to do it is where it's done now, scale it back, move it to the spring. I was originally for the fall, but we did have so much success this year with San Gennaro and the fall festival that I think moving into the springtime and 2 weeks before Memorial Day seems like, you shouldn't crafts, but you are anyway. So, to answer your question, I don't think the business community would benefit that much for being in the Memorial Park.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
I like the idea of Tom Volker, 8th Avenue now. And, I like.
Is it hard to get used to saying that?
Yes, work my memory here. But I like the idea of moving it to May. I mean, you're really fighting too many things in June. beachgoers and then definitely fireworks. Too many things were drawing people in. If you move it to May, and now say you do that, say you move it to May, and how do you prevent what Tom or Brian was saying about you can't move? You know, you want to get food, but you don't know what line you're in. That was the case. I haven't heard anybody say, how about moving the crafters up to the boardwalk and just have the food vendors around the lake like they are now, but yet with more room, plus the beverage tent. The other thing I haven't heard is, how about charging $2 a head for admission? Would some people sneak in? Sure, but who cares? You could raise something like a couple $100,000, which is $2 a head on adults, and use that money, put it towards a parking authority where we could have adequate parking someday, or give half to charity. I mean, whatever you do. It would tend maybe to cut down crowds a little bit, but I don't think it would cut down a lot. So, I mean, I think those are a couple things that I would also consider. Thank you.
That's interesting. What would people think about charging?
I don't think it works to charge for money to come to a town unless you put it inside Memorial Field, which is fenced off. And the advantage of Memorial Field is you got the public school, so the crowds wouldn't bother them. They have some parking. Jaeger parking, the DPW, there's no neighbors that you would disturb there. Main Street you wouldn't be disturbing. There's limited number of homes on 13th Avenue. Memorial Field is actually larger than Silver Lake Park.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Would you? Yeah. That's an option to think. If you put it inside a fence, then you might be able to charge an entry fee going into there. But if you had it at Silver Lake, people come from so many directions. I think it'd be a nightmare to, fence it off so that people would have to come in through a gate, so to speak.
Although, you know what, they charge so much for the food.
Yeah.
The food's not cheap.
When we had
If we
the,
want to scale it down, that would be a great way to do it.
when we had the AVP, they charged to get into the tournament, and we also charged for the beach badges, and people really hated us. They blamed Belmar as opposed to blaming AVP. I think if you charge people to get into the seafood festival and pay the high prices for the food, I think we would get a black eye.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, I know that the Chowder Fest that they have down in, I forget where it's down on Long Beach Island. You only pay if you want to come in and actually help pick the winner of the chowder. You pay to go in and try the stuff, the different ones that are in the contest. But if you just want to go in and buy some soup, you don't pay. You just go in and buy soup.
I just have two comments. Blocking off 8th Avenue and having only residents in there. My daughters aren't residents of Belmar, so how would they get to my house? I'm sure there's a lot of other families that live along South Lake Drive, 7th Avenue, North Lake Drive, that have family members that don't live in Belmar. So if you had a residence-only type of a deal, how would they get in? And also, I'm pushing for the no fireworks. If we moved it into May, that would be the nesting season for the birds on First Avenue Beach. And that would just traumatize all those birds on First Avenue. So you'd have the environmentalists, no offense, Tom, and PETA members, if we set off fireworks in May, just as these terns and other shorebirds, plovers.
We'd probably get in trouble for it.
Yeah, you could probably. So that would be if we do move it into May, that would certainly be a reason why you couldn't have the fireworks, I would think.
Or have the festival at the beach. I mean,
Right.
You know what, why even, if we're not even having it down there, why would we even have fireworks? I mean, the whole idea is that everything's at the beach right now, and the idea is fireworks are something that nice idea, but I don't think we need it. I don't think we need it even if we leave it there. I don't think we need it.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I tell you, the trouble Mary Brabazon causes.
No, I'll say Mary does a fantastic, great job.
No,
She's too
The
good.
trouble Mary Brabazon causes.
too good.
You're too good at your job, right? I mean, this is what happens. All right, so, well, Mary, when do you think we actually need to pick a firm date?
Yesterday.
So when do you think we need to pick a firm date?
Sooner the better, really, no matter what.
In the next 2 weeks, I think at our next meeting
Sort of
of
by the
mayor
end of the year?
council.
Yeah.
All right. How do you feel about the May?
I actually think it's fine. It's been very, very insightful to have these conversations. It would be even a nice idea to have it on an annual basis. It's very positive. I think it's a great idea. Some nice thoughts here. Just to share with you the fact that there would most likely not be fireworks this year, Brian, for a couple of reasons, including the fact that hopefully we're going to be in construction, and I don't think it'd be a good combination to burn the building down before we actually get it. So, that was probably something that was not going to happen this year anyway, because it just didn't make good sense.
How expensive are the fireworks?
Well,
In
everybody's
the
idea
thousands,
of
right? $5,000
Yeah.
for fireworks for like 20 minutes?
Yeah, that region, yeah.
Well, that's
It was a nice try, it was well received.
Yeah.
It doesn't work all the time,
Right.
it's, you know,
It could rain.
it could rain, it could rain. May is a nice idea. September, I think if we even thought about it, the locals like the idea that September is their summer, and they don't like to share the fact that the water is warm, the beach is beautiful, and it's free. May, the water's still cold, and I hear you, Tom, about the concern about the lifeguards, and I think it's very valid. I do believe there are lifeguards on duty on weekends in May. It would certainly
We
be-
could also, we could.
Yeah.
We could staff that area probably.
Absolutely, a very, very good point, and, you know, it's all nice, it's nice to share information, it's nice to share thoughts, that's the whole idea behind it. There is one thing that has to be said, that it is a great event for our town, it is also a great event for our businesses. I realize that downtown businesses don't do well out of it, but restaurants and places like that participate, which is why I think part of why it started in the beginning too. It's a nice little kick for them. It's certainly better for them in May than September. They have their students, they have their staff. They would all struggle to have a successful event in September. It's some people's livelihoods. That's about it, which it was an education I got over the years. To the Friday night, it was a thought, it's something that's in progress. I also want to start by saying, I believe that last summer was, like everybody said, it was a perfect storm. It was an alignment of everything coming together on the one day. And if I were a gambling person, I would be quite willing to bet that to see that again is highly unlikely. But if it were to happen, if something bad were to happen also as a result of that, I would think, I know personally I'd have a hard time living with myself, and I think everybody else would too, not to use the information we have to be, proactive and to do what we need to do to make sure the event continues as the kind of event we want it to be.
And another thing that Mary does that's remarkable with the event is how much revenue it generates for tourism that gets spent on other tourism-related activities, including things like the Friday night concerts.
Yeah.
Friday night concerts aren't, they're free to the public that comes and enjoys them, but they're not free. Someone pays, and in this case, it's tourism. And a lot of the money that she receives isn't, how much do we charge as tourism fees?
$100.
$100 for businesses. So that doesn't go very far. But where she generates a tremendous amount of revenue is the seafood festival. So yeah, you do a remarkable job, Mary.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that if
Okay,
you move it to May, you'll do a great job as well. Now, what does our police department think about the dates in May?
Do you think that will
No, I think,
As far as having specials on, manning it, having full contingent of officers?
Most of our graduates are the week before, the weekend, but we certainly have enough to staff the May dates that we discussed. I don't see a problem with those dates. We've gone over some plans. And I certainly think that with traffic and, policing event will not be a problem.
And in your opinion, I guess, Captain Heiden, since you've been born and raised in Belmar and you've seen the seafood festival, you've been a police officer, do you think moving the date would have a significant impact on lowering the number of people that come?
I think that you wouldn't have the perfect storm again if you move the date. I think the weather, Belmar has become very popular over the years. The event has become very popular. I think that the May dates would certainly downsize the event. I think it would be more manageable. I'm not too concerned about the beachfront. Like Mr. Brennan said, we certainly could police that. We do have a water rescue team. Our lifeguards are staffing up at that time, so we could plan for that. I think that May dates would work. If the council prefers the dates that are present, then we would have to discuss some more policing issues that we'd have to plan for.
I'm sorry, they graduate the weekend before Memorial Day?
We have a couple academies out there, but we do
Class
have
ones and twos or just twos?
the class, both actually, class 1 and 2.
Okay, so even if we had like the weekend before Memorial Day, they wouldn't be available?
Yeah, but we have enough,
They graduate the weekend before the proposed date, is that correct?
No, Memorial Day, we have a class that graduates, but that's 10 recruits, but we do have enough staffing for the seafood festival.
And what about our Department of Public Works opinion on the matter, Superintendent?
It, May makes it just another challenge, it's something we can handle for sure. But usually that time of year, we're getting ready for the beach to open, so this will just be something else on our plate. But the mayor and Colleen are very good at loading our plate anyway, we need to get things done, so.
Oh, just buttering up.
But I do think we would have less crowds. From living in town, I live, as Brian says, I'm Brian's neighbor, so we live right in that area. I think moving into May would be a good gamble for this year, and see what it does with the crowds. But we will certainly make things ready as we always do.
Mike can leave now, right?
What is that?
I had another thought.
Yes.
I had another thought. All right, so what about the weekend before Memorial Day? That weekend is the townwide yard sales and the sidewalk sales, correct? What if we did it all that weekend? What if we did it all? What if
We
did it all?
surveyed some folks, and the concern with that weekend is that,
21st, 22nd.
yeah, it's the same challenge you have on the 13th and 14th, Councilman Brennan, a lot of graduations are
A lot of
happening.
graduations. I'm just thinking more in terms of, like, the businesses in town, and, maybe the idea is if we had more traffic in, it would help the people who are trying to do the sidewalks.
We did look at it, I think from a logistical standpoint,
Just a little too much.
a little too much, the weekend before is kind of more ideally positioned.
Well, doesn't matter which weekend it would be, it'd be the same amount of work either way, or would it be
For
easier?
DPW, the following weekend with the yard sale is a killer for us.
Okay, that answers my
works.
question. It's good.
So let's do
I'm fine. I'm just giving
Add on to his plans. All right, so we want to sort of come to an agreement on the date. I mean, again, we did take public feedback.
Are we going for 3 dates or 2 days, Saturday and Sunday?
We'll put Saturday and Sunday, but I'd like to see how we could work Friday into being a more traditional locals only, where maybe we don't advertise it. Don't advertise it, no fireworks, and sort of play it.
So you would go Friday, but no fireworks.
Right.
Here's my suggestion, we would take your, the discussion that you had here, your input, we would take it back to the Special Events Committee and workshop the application and bring it back to Mayor and Council at your next meeting.
Right, but now the important thing would just be to sort of pick that weekend. So the weekend would be the
13, 14, 15.
well, we're telling people
Yeah,
the 14th, 15th.
yeah.
Yes. Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anyone else.
There goes Bruce, look.
He's gonna call the break. He's gonna fart his head.
He's calling people.
You're a rat. I'm just kidding. Bruce is not a rat.
Publication dates would be 14th.
So yeah, publication dates, so whatever flyers, banners,
Yeah.
advertisements, 14th, 15th, we kind of do a little code blue, hey,
Yeah, tell the vendors to be here, we'll have some business.
Right.
Big.
I do think that
I know, they're not gonna come.
Tom Burke was right. I don't know if Main Street sees a whole lot out of it, but certainly the vendors who participate, I mean, they kill it. I mean, last year there were vendors running out of food at 3 o'clock. You know, and they were charging a lot of money, and they were still running out of food at 3 o'clock, so, you know, people were coming and paying a good amount.
You know, it could rain.
And it could rain, and it's rained before, right? I mean,
It does.
Yeah.
Anytime you run something outside, you don't know what the weather is going to be when you,
Right.
Yeah.
anything.
But according to Murphy's Law, May 14th and 15th will be like 90 and sunny, and the dates we're moving it from will be rainy. So, all right. All right, so let's pick those dates. Is that okay, Mary? That work for you?
Thank you, absolutely, thanks very much. Yeah.
Planning helps.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Works for me.
And then,
So
like,
the party's at Brian's on Friday.
parties at Brian's on Friday.
Right.
Okay, good.
I won't be here.
No seafood, just.
I'm gonna be in New Orleans at a graduation.
Positive thing that's in child.
I wasn't gonna bring that, that's not a reason to make it, look at it, so it's okay.
And keep the same location, you think? In front of Brian's house?
Why not in his
Well-
yard?
Unless Tom's suggestion of redirecting where the food vendors versus the.
Yeah,
Well, we
change
can-
the configuration.
Well, we could look at, I'm sure tourism can look at the
Yeah, I
configuration.
think changing the configuration of the.
I think just sort of giving her direction as to, because I mean, I think it's kind of, I don't know, I think it'd be kind of interesting to have something that Memorial Field like this, but
Well,
I think the field is gonna get hit. And that gets a lot of use by our athletic teams,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, parking lot.
No, the vendors, people walking on it.
Yeah, the field,
It's
so
fine.
the
I
field would
mean,
be,
if you ever see
season to
the,
be over, basically.
I mean, the grass in front of
Actually, the grass is going to come out.
Silver Lake is shot for a while after that.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, that's right in the middle of softball, baseball, and other activities we have on Memorial Field.
Tough to
So,
see.
but Memorial Field is it was a great location. And obviously, you know, our Oktoberfest did really well, and San Gennaro did well, so things up on Main Street do well.
No, I was just gonna ask, I assume we also rent Memorial Field out, so we can keep that nice.
Yeah, we don't want to, and, you know, the ones that turn back and go out. All right,
We'll proceed.
you have your marching orders?
We do.
That's a long workshop.
Let's go.
7 o'clock.
At least it didn't rain.
It's raining outside now.
Well, that would stop it.
Next, any petitions? Any petitions from mayor and council? Referendums? I don't know. Approval of the minutes.
I approve. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on November 10th, 2015 be approved as recorded, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second.
Councilwoman Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Belmar?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Dyer?
Yes. Next are reports of the council. Council President?
Okay, I just have one quick short report. Today was the opening day of our beach badge sales for 2016, December 1st, and we sold $7,000 worth of beach badges on December 1st. So, that's my report. Good start.
Oh, well, you want to mention our basketball star from Oakwood?
Okay, I do it all the time. You've heard me mention about the Mabry sisters. Michaela, who's a senior at Notre Dame, is the captain. And Marina, our younger sister, is a freshman. And Marina was just named Rookie of the Week for the Atlantic Coast Conference. She In overtime, she scored, not in overtime, in an overtime game that Notre Dame won, she scored 18 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, and she's only a freshman.
And she's a true freshman, not
A
a
true freshman. Yeah, she was playing for Manasquan High School last year. Yeah. So, I mean, she's doing great.
Must have been the rec department that she came through.
Those kids were doing things at 7 years old that I couldn't teach them. Yeah. No, they were good. They're good.
Councilwoman Keon Blackburn?
Councilwoman Nicolay sent me an email that she received from the Belmar Elementary School. So, information for the school. On December the 7th is Hour of Code. The students will be learning coding. On the 8th is the winter concert at 7 p.m. On the 14th, PTO meeting at 7 p.m. 17th is Walk to School Day. And on December 23rd, the dismissal will be at 1 p.m. And that's the start of their winter holiday. The library is very active this month. There's a party on the 10th from 2 until 4, entertainment and refreshments. If you plan to go, if you would give the library a call, they're just trying to get a head count. The 17th from 5 till 7 p.m., you can go to the library and meet photographer Bill McKim, who lives here in Belmar. He will be having available some calendars for 2016 Jersey Shore calendars and some signed prints that will be for sale. Saturday, December the 5th, from 10 in the morning till 12 is breakfast with the author, Andrea Joe Rogers, and there will be light refreshments. On the 23rd of December, the opera at 1 p.m., and it's Die Fledermaus. December the 16th for children, 9:30 in the morning, story time with a special guest, Santa will be there. A special thank you to the DPW today. When I came down Main Street, it was pouring rain, and all the guys, and I don't know if it was all the guys, but a bunch of guys were there in the plaza working on the Christmas tree, getting ready for Friday night. And it was really nice to see that tree being moved up. Senior luncheon tomorrow in the gym at 11 a.m. And winter walking started today in the gym, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 until 2 in the afternoon. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brennan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to commend DPW. The plaza looks great. I know Mrs. White is going to be down there, and one of the questions she had about bringing the chorus down was, is that canopy with the lights going to be there, because she loved it last year. It made her job a lot easier, partly because you can see all the kids. I remember doing it myself when it was dark, and it was a lot harder to keep track of where the kids were, so it's a big help, and it's a beautiful set. It's beautiful, and it really looks great. Couple of things. We're working on the bamboo regulation ordinance. We got a copy of Lake Como. We're going to work on it ourselves. Also going to look into the town in Jersey, Longport, passed a plastic bag ordinance regulating the use of bags from different stores. We got a copy of their ordinance. We're going to look at that too, see what possibilities might be about doing something like that in Belmar. Do you hear there's a concert next Tuesday night at the school? If you get a chance, you should come over. I mean, the kids they sound great, and the program over there is huge. And we're looking at somewhere around 200 kids are going to perform. And the size of the school we're talking about, and the ages of kids who can participate. You're talking about more than half of the kids who are eligible to participate are actually going to be in the show, and they're great. If you get a chance, come on over. It starts at 7 o'clock. I got a chance to see our first responder of the month in action today. I don't know. I was working at school, and I just happened to be there when one of my coworkers was injured. He cut his leg rather badly. He slipped and cut his leg, and was really bleeding all over the place. Called 911. Belmar Police Department responded very quickly, had everything under control. First aid came in, everything under control. George Comatas was there, checking out was there also, a couple other guys. Took great care of my coworker, and it was really handled very calmly. I got to tell you, every time I see something like that, the way our guys handle things, I'm just so impressed, and I feel really lucky to live in a town where I can say that, because you can't say that everywhere, but we can here. And that's the end of my report.
Would you mind just real fast sort of explain the, not whole lot of detail, but the bamboo issue.
Bamboo is a highly invasive, what was originally thought of as an ornamental shrub. I mean, people brought it in and planted it to create privacy screens instead of planting, or to hide a fence, or instead of having a fence. Problem with bamboo is it spreads like crazy, and it's really hard to keep it from spreading and to get rid of it once it does. I mean, Lake Como's they've got a terrible problem. If you've seen over by where their athletic field is down off of 22nd Avenue, all behind those homes in there, it's full of bamboo, and it's really, unless you're gonna dig it all up with a backhoe, there's almost no way to get rid of it. We don't want that kind of thing to happen in Belmar. We know Councilman Blackburn has a problem over there in your neighborhood. Yeah, and
It comes under the fence and comes on your.
absolutely.
It'll run under concrete.
It goes in everybody's yard.
Bamboo is murder. I mean, whoever thought it was a good idea, you know. You know,
Can we get an elephant? We got goats a couple of years ago.
wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
There you go, Mike. Look into an elephant.
There you go. I think the idea is, what you want to do is you want to make sure people don't see it as an option, they don't plant it, no matter what. And you want to make sure that people who do have it don't get stung too hard. I mean, they might not be their fault, they might have been there before they bought the property, whatever. And that seems to be the issue. We're going to tweak the language.
How do you get rid of it? Spray it, or you really
You got to dig up the roots.
Dig it up,
You got to dig up the roots and wall.
and again,
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, it's really, I don't want it anywhere near my house. I'll never see it. I have trouble with English ivy, for crying out loud. Bamboo's 10 times worse.
Thank you.
Okay.
What else from my report?
So, we are talking with Lake Como about providing them with policing services, possibly starting sometime next year. It's not a simple issue at all. It's sort of complicated and convoluted. It's something that we've never done before, but it's something that we're exploring with them, and hopefully we'll have something for the council to consider, maybe sometime in January, if we get to that point. You know, I think Mayor Wilton in Lake Como is in a very tough position, trying to balance cost with the needs of policing his town, and that's why it's possibly a good idea, as long as it's mutually beneficial for both of our towns. It's something I think we should seriously consider moving forward on. Second thing is, looks like we're going to get sued again. No one's smiling. So, the former mayor, Ken Pringle, sent a letter to our attorney, basically saying he's looking to sue us over diversion of Belmar Beach utility funds to pay non-beach related police and dispatcher salary and wage costs from 2011 to the present. This would effectively have, if we took his threat and made it policy, it would have one of two effects. One, either less police officers in the summer, which would obviously be detrimental to our town, or two, a significant increase in property taxes to cover those extra police officers that we have to put on during the summer months. And remember, the only reason why we put them on is because people come to Belmar. The only reason people really come to Belmar in the summer is to go to the beach. We're gonna, if this lawsuit comes, which it looks like it will, we will fight it vigorously. We'll make any appeals we have to ensure that we do have an adequate level of public safety in town, and also not on the backs of taxpayers. Be forewarned, another lawsuit coming. Lastly, one thing I want to highlight, maybe embarrass her a little bit, is our business administrator, Colleen Conley, is a tremendous leader, so much so that she actually made lunch for the entire Department of Public Works. She chose to do this over the police department because she clearly has a favorite son
of her children. But I thought it was really, interesting for a town like us that sort of shows the camaraderie and the leadership that we have here. That she made them a simple gesture at lunch that how much did they appreciate it, right, Mike?
Very much.
Very much. So, anyway, it's something no one would have known if I didn't say it, and that was done. So that's my report. Next is the public session for the resolution calendar. Before we start the public session, I would like to make a motion to amend the consent agenda to include 4 additional resolutions. I'll read each resolution title, and I'll make one motion to add them all on. Resolution of the Borough of Belmar regarding the results of the public question listed on November 3rd, 2015 general election ballot. This was the referendum approving bonding for the Taylor Pavilion. Resolution indicating corrective action plan status regarding the 2014 municipal audit report. We all have copies of the municipal audit. Resolution approving the calendar year 2016 special improvement district budget and setting the hearing on the budget. We all received the budget from the SID, or the BBP, as it's also called. And lastly, resolution authorizing marina fees for the year 2016 at the Belmar Marina, which we discussed very briefly in workshop. So I'll make a motion to add all those to the consent agenda.
I'll second
Councilwoman Keon Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Barry?
Yes. Next is public session for the resolution calendar. Any comments, questions on the resolution calendar? Please come up to the microphone. State your name, address for the record. Put your question or comment maybe.
Hi, good evening, David Schnapp. David Schnapp, 302 C Street. Couple of things. One of the resolutions is setting the 2016 meeting dates. And I'm just want to remind the council that the meetings are for the public's benefit, and I would beseech you to try to do a better job sticking to the schedule and not canceling meetings and rescheduling meetings, and this is a resolution. It's like a law, and I would like to see you do a better job of obeying it. It is when you set a date, you don't want to be jilted, so would like to see all those dates kept. The resolution is establishing beach storage locker fees. Can you tell me, is there still a waiting list of people who want to rent beach lockers? Does anyone know? And is that for every beach, like pretty much that people want to be, rent lockers? Most of the beaches, there's demand for more lockers.
Well, there's the most demand for the most popular beaches.
Right, of course. You may recall, and I just want to remind you, now that the Fifth Avenue Pavilion is going ahead and going to be built, that I suggested this earlier. I just wanted to remind you of my suggestion that on the east side, the building is empty underneath, because it's elevated. I understand on the 10th Avenue Pavilion, that empty space will be used to try to store, life-saving equipment and such. But for the Fifth Avenue Pavilion, my understanding is that it's going to be, dead space. It has to be able to be blown through,
That's there and storing some beach equipment too.
Being used.
on the Fifth Avenue Pavilion.
Yes, we're gonna be using that.
Go underneath.
Underneath, yes, we're gonna be building and using that for beach equipment, so that we're not putting it on First Avenue or Second Avenue. We're gonna try and get everything underneath the building.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to suggest that maybe we could build walkers into that on the east side of it, but if it's already being spoken for, then I guess we can't do that. Okay. These resolutions added to the consent agenda, the public never got a chance to review these on the website, and you just listed the names of them, but we don't really know what they say, and you're just putting them on the resolution calendar. For example, the first one, I won't make you read all of them, but the first two that are added on, I would like to know what the resolutions actually say, if you would be so kind.
We have them on.
Oh, they're added, they're in this folder here? Okay, if somebody else wants to talk while I read them, then I can come back if I have a comment on them, or?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Still a couple minutes, right? All right. Well, I can't find the second one, so I'll let it go. I don't like to hear that. Thank you.
One thing I do want to mention on the resolution setting meeting dates, and I would ask the council to be a bit flexible on this. I mentioned to Councilwoman Nicolay that if she would like us to choose a certain date, I think we have to do a reorg the first, by what, by the 8th of January, something like that? So whatever date may work best for her, if she wants to have family members come because she's getting sworn in. So that's one date that may change. As far as the other dates, I think we're required to have one meeting a month. We'll always have one meeting a month. Outside of that, we set the schedule, and if we cancel them, we cancel them. Any other public comments or questions on the resolution calendar? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Another thing worth noting on here is the bonding. Sort of the last two resolutions on the calendar before the ones we added. We're looking at a note rate of 3% on a 20-year term, and this is through Monmouth County Improvement Authority, correct? So we get to take advantage of their AAA bond
They're
rate.
AAA, right? And we're AA.
We're double A3.
Three.
Which we are going to work on trying to improve that as well. I don't know if we'll ever get to AAA just because we don't have the diverse economy that the entire county has. But I would tell you that, you know, when we go out to bond, we usually float notes. These aren't notes, these are actually bonds themselves. So when we say bonding, people lump them all together, but what we do are usually short-term notes. Just to give you an idea, when we do short-term notes, we'll do 6 months, we'll do 9 months. We're generally paying somewhere around 0.65 to 0.80. It looks as though the Federal Reserve may finally increase interest rates maybe 25 basis points, which is 0.25. So you may see those short-term rates go up. The long-term rates may not be affected by it. But again, 3% over 20 years, and we've been, our CFO, who's very smart at this, has been pushing this off and keeping these floating at the reduced rate for as long as she possibly could, to extend it as well. So when we do go out to borrow, our CFO has a setup that we borrow with the least amount of cost as possible. That makes sense when you average the yields over the entire term. So that's what
This is not new debt, right? This is stuff that was spent. The things that was spent
10 years old.
10 years old.
Right, right.
It's nothing we just passed.
No, but if you can borrow at such low interest rates, you want to try to do that as long as possible,
Right.
just for the time value of money. And then once you roll into 3%, that's kind of fair. You know, that's probably less than a home equity at this point. But again, the short-term rates are probably going to be going up. These long-term rates probably aren't going to change all that much, which is good for us. So anyway, with that, I'll make a motion to move the resolution calendar, the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilwoman Killen-Blackburn?
Yes.
Councilman McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Darrell?
Yes. There are no ordinances on tonight. We're going to have lots of ordinances come January. The ones that Councilman Brennan mentioned we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss the redevelopment zone, extending that. We're going to discuss and our pay-to-play, introduce that. The reason why we can't say that tonight is because we did it first reading tonight, and then we would do second reading at our next council meeting, which I think is the 15th. There's a 20-day estoppel period. So, you'd be to December 35th, and that doesn't exist. So we can't go to the next calendar year, which is why, ordinances and resolutions always have, the year on them, as you would see. So next year it'll say 2016-0102. So now our public session. Any comment? Please raise your hand when you come to the microphone. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's Andy
Name
Maroney.
and address for the record, please.
Andy Maroney, 16th Avenue. Mr. Mayor, you brought it up, so I don't know if this is the proper time to speak about it or not. It's in regards to the possible takeover of Lake Como Police Department. Am I in the right place to speak about that?
Sure, you can speak about whatever you like, sir.
There's a lot of things that worry me here. One of them is I can't understand why we're doing this. To whose benefit? Is it to make money? Is it to, in this day and age, governments are trying to downsize, not add additional salaries to the budget. When this thing went out to like Spring Lake and Spring Lake Heights and Wall, and I think they all just thumb their noses to it. And I don't understand why we're even bothering looking at this. I consider a town somewhere like Spring Lake, tranquil, peaceful, safe. I think what you're going to end up doing here, you're going to come back with a number. And basically what I'm trying to tell you is you're not going to be able to do it any cheaper than you're doing it now. The patrol area and our area. I can go through some figures if you want. I'm not privy to a lot of numbers right now. Well, what I fear is our first of all, let's speak about Lake Como Police Department. Right now, they claim they have 10 officers, they're down to 8 now. And from what I hear, they require their 5 bars to have police in them at the cost from the bars to hire police. That in itself tells me they're basically understaffed. In fact, there's an open letter. It's on the front page of Lake Como's website. And it's an open letter that I have here. It's from their chief of police, Chief Hope. And it's been on their website since, well, almost over a year now. This was posted back in response to a letter back in May of 2014. I'm just going to read one little snippet here. And this is again an open letter to the residents of by Chief Hope. It says, during this time of the year especially, we are very busy. Even though we put more officers on during the weekends, we sometimes get backed up, and even though the town is small, we cannot be at every place in town at the same time. Every time we make an arrest, the officers have to come off the road and process the complaints. This could take an officer off the road for a period of time. We ask you to be patient, and we will give all of our calls the same amount of attention. We're here to serve you and keep your neighborhood peaceful. So basically that tells me in itself that they're understaffed. And if it's costing them $1.9 million to understaff their town, how can you possibly do anything cheaper? You can't, other than to sacrifice the people of this town, their safety, their tranquility, their town. But where are you going to cut costs? And why? Why are you doing this? You're wasting your time. I guess you probably know Lake Como better than I do, because I've been out around here maybe 10 years. We have one bar in town. And, originally I thought, all right, so what? Thursday, Friday night, Saturday night, I call for the police because I have an emergency. And they can't come because there are bar fights in Lake Como. And I have to wait. But then I started looking, and it's not just Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. You got advertisements here from bar anticipation. It's all drinking. That's all they do is drink there. Monday night's the only night they're advertising 2-for-1 burgers. Okay, they're drinking bars. We did away with bars in this town years ago. And you're trying to bring them back, organized patrol. PK Shamrocks, again, $4 olive drinks. Again, Mondays is the only time they're advertising for food. And you can get chicken wings at 50 cents. So what are you really doing here? You have no answers, but whatever. So anyway, the numbers I'm going to give you are fairly common.
I'll give you another minute, but let me get around.
I'm sorry. It takes 4.8 police officers to patrol the town 24/7, 365 days a year. Now, if you're going to double up on an afternoon shift, midnight shift, you need 3 more officers to that. That's up to 8 officers. Okay. Then you're going to need a detective. Before you know it, you have the town officers again. And they'll tell you it's going to cost $1.9 million. What are you going to tell me? You do it for $500,000? At whose expense? At my safety? My kids' safety? I don't think so. These lateral transfers you've been all lately. Can you tell me what step they're coming in at, these officers? And salary guy?
We can get you information, we'll have it right now.
Okay. I believe they're probably not coming in at starting salary, which is $36,000, I believe. So you're probably bringing them in anywhere between 36 and, say, 95,000. And by the way, an average officer makes 100,000. 40,000 on top of that, that's 140,000 for an officer. Okay? 10 of them, that's up $1.4 million. Plus all your other staff behind, everything else that goes on behind it. What needs to be done here, well, get back to the lateral transfers.
Sorry, we gotta wrap it up. A couple of things on here, I just want to correct. We're not taking over a police department, we're not merging the police department, we're not adding.
Excuse me, give me your time there.
You can sit, sir.
Excuse me?
You can sit.
No,
No, you can sit as well, and you can wait to be called on.
I don't see that.
Yes. We have a lot of very, very successful shared services. We would not be merging the police department at all. We would be providing, if we do it, police services, just like we provide other shared services. As far as the bars, I mean, it's pretty obvious that people go to bars to drink. Even if they put advertisements for 2-for-1 burgers, the reason why they're advertising 2-for-1 burgers is to get people to come in and drink. That's what bars do. It's not a surprise. Your number at 1.9 million, I believe that was correct. As far as what we would sacrifice, we're not looking to sacrifice anything. We would only do this if we thought it was mutually beneficial for both towns. Real simple. It will come down to math and what staff we would need to provide those services. But I can assure you, I can only speak for myself, I'm sure the members of the council will tell you the same thing. We're not going to do something that would lose money. None of the shared services we have lose money. The shared services we have generate a tremendous amount of revenue that help keep a lid on property taxes here in town. You may not know it, but we provide dispatch services for Lake Como and Spring Lake Heights. If you call 911 in Belmar, your call will get answered just as quickly as if we didn't provide those services. So we provide mutual aid for towns around us. If you call the police, they would get there just as soon as if we didn't provide mutual aid. So to say there's any sacrifice is completely incorrect. And this is, again, it's not a takeover. It's not assuming any additional officers. It's if we enter into it, it's a shared service agreement to provide policing services. That's it. Ms. Shepherd, do you want to say a couple words?
He's going to speak for me.
No, you can speak if you'd like. He's not going to speak for you. Just state your name and address for the record, and say whatever you'd like for 5 minutes.
He's going to speak for me.
I know. I just told you that's not going to happen. So, what would you like to say?
I live in a war zone in Belmar on 4th Avenue. We got rid of 2 bars, and that's the most beautiful part of town. Now, we're gonna take over our police department, we're gonna send them down Lake Como all the time. I hate to tell you what I saw going on with 4th Avenue. I never told anybody.
Any other comments, questions for public session?
Donna Volker, 41211 Bath, Belmar. I just have a simple question. I was just curious, is there a reason why there aren't trash cans like on the boardwalk, and I notice around town? Can you say one?
Mike, you want to sort of answer that question as far as, because I get a lot of questions as to why they're not up on the boardwalk in particular.
Sure, we take them down every winter, same time. Once we start winterizing the pipes and beaches and everything, we take them down every year. Because they blow around and make a larger mess than they're worth.
Well, I've lived here many years, 27 years, and I've always walked on the boardwalk, and even like near, I'm trying to think, near 7-Eleven, around the lake, is it possible to put up a couple more? Because I always walk this time of year, and it just seems like there are less trash cans, and I don't know.
I don't think there were any, correct? Am I wrong?
There are, around the lake, there's still trash cans, and there are some businesses.
Up on the beachfront, I don't think there's any.
Well, I really notice because I'm walking my grand's dog a lot, and there's no place to, I can't find any trash cans throughout the store. And then I'm running into that on Ocean Ave, so I really, but I always, being an avid walker, I just notice I've always walked even in the winter. It just seemed like there were more, so.
Yes.
We've gotten this question a lot for some reason this year as opposed to previous years, so Mike and I have put our heads together, we're going to come up with a recommendation for something that we think would be manageable to at least get some year-round garbage services around. Yeah, so we'll see what we can.
Okay.
So we probably have to change something, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise,
we're going to look at a couple of different options. So, we'll figure something out.
This was a nicer fall for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
There's probably more walkers than
True.
other years.
Sure.
We had the threat of that one storm that came in, and that's when you guys really hustled to get it on the issue. Otherwise, maybe it would have trickled out a little bit more. So, anyone else? Yes, sir.
I think that's fine. Thank you. By the way, I agree about the garbage cans,
Name and address for
Oh, I'm sorry. Everyone knows me, but David Schneck, 302 C Street, come visit my house. About the garbage cans, people aren't gonna, well, maybe I would walk 10 blocks holding a piece of garbage, waiting for a garbage can, but a lot of people probably don't. And, I'm one of those rare smokers that never throws a cigarette butt on the ground. And so and sometimes end up walking for blocks and blocks and blocks before there's finally a garbage can that I can throw. So I'm walking down the street holding a cigarette butt, I'd knock the head off it and just wait until, but it is somewhat of an inconvenience, and the longer I hold it in my hand, the more my fingers smell like tobacco. At this shared services, real quick, one observation that I have, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like we provide, and I wrote about this today, it seems like it's always us providing the services for other towns to share in. I know there's some services that like maybe now we farm out to the county does for us. I know there's some purchasing cooperatives and such that we take advantage of. But are there any services that other towns are actually running that we're paying them to do for us? Are there any?
Well, we share equipment with other towns, but no, in general, I believe it's, we're in a much better position if we're the one providing the service and we're the one generating the revenue. So think of something like dispatch. Most towns in the county use county for dispatch. We don't. But at the same time, because we have shared service agreements where we provide dispatch for Lake Como and for Spring Lake Heights, it allows us to keep our dispatch here, keeps it under control price-wise,
and we're able to keep it right here in this building,
Well,
which is important. So I'd rather not be in a position of receiving the services. I'd rather be in a position of providing the services and generating revenue off of that. Because if you're the other way around, like let's say you're in a position where you have to disband your police department. Imagine if you had to put it back together again.
well, I would never want to see our police department disbanded, but I'm just saying that,
No, that's,
you know,
no, that's an example.
I'm just
What
saying
if-
that,
No, let's
no,
let's say-
excuse
let's
me,
say
this
you
is
take
my
care-
time,
Oh,
please.
right.
You know, I'm just saying that these people that run these other towns that are sharing services with us, Spring Lake, and, you know, we share some services. I know Robin's still doing their financial work for them, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of these other towns are not run by dummies, you know, they're pretty smart people running these towns, but it seems like for some reason, it's always us. They never volunteer to provide services for us and let us pay them. And it's always the other way around. It's always us that are running it. And I'm just wondering whether maybe we're giving out too good a deal, you know. It's always us providing the service and them buying it from us. And it never seems to be the other way around. And it seems like if it was fair, maybe Spring Lake would provide our CFO and we might provide some other towns, some other service or something. But it's always one way. It's always us providing the service and other towns buying it, always. And it just seems, to me, it strikes me as being something weird. Because I know these towns, Spring Lake, Manasquan, Seagirt, they're not run by, you know, the Spring Lake Heights and such. They're not run by dummies. These people are looking out for their taxpayers too. And, you know, and it just seems to be a one-way street on that. So that's something I think, you know, the public should consider. And just one other thing, and this is totally out of left field. You know, every year we have the concession, like an auction here for the concessions, for the boardwalk things, you know, and I'm not sure, can somebody tell me when that's coming up? Because if it's not gonna be for a couple of months, I may wait to talk about it, but, you know, the auction, yeah, I have the auction, and people here, they're,
Sometime in March, April.
March or April?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to ask the Borough Council to consider maybe, you know, it just seems, I know it's very entertaining and stuff, but it just seems like it's a little too dramatic, and I think that some people got carried away and maybe bid more than would be responsible and stuff. And like, we don't have bidding like that for building our pavilions or for other services. We ask people to send in a sealed bid, and then on a certain day, we open up all the sealed bids, and whoever has the highest or lowest, whatever we're trying to do, they win. And it just seems to me like that turns into like a circus, and that some people get carried away, and it doesn't do us any good for people to be paying more in rent than they can make. And they think about how glorious it is running a beachfront thing and everything, and how much fun and romantic it would be. And I think they get carried away and they make bad business decisions. And it might not be good for, you know, just to have the new people every year because everybody bids too high. So I would just like the council to consider a more dignified way of handling that and just having the sealed bid process like we do for other services. And thank you very much. Good night.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council. Mike Tardio, I am the delegate of Local 50, which represents the members of the Lake Como, Belmar Police Department, as well as 7 others in the short, actually 6 others in the short. This is something that obviously we're concerned about as union members. We're concerned with the layoffs of Lake Como police officers, as well as the morale in the Belmar Police Department and what could happen here. And I have the utmost respect for the administration, Chief Palmisano and Captain Heisman, and how they run their police department. I hope that the mayor and councils could be in constant communication with them as you decide what you're going to do. Having that said, as far as what this gentleman said, the 2 members that were brought over, lateral transfers, how you said you do not have their salaries that they were brought in on. I hope we're being honest and transparent, because I'm pretty sure they know. If you just ask them. Also, the borough administrator would know the numbers that they were brought in on. And I also hope there's going to be a study done
Study what?
By the Division of Criminal Justice, on any type of merger.
I'm not, I think it's important to stress again, because you said the word merger. It is not a merger.
Understood.
Whether or not there'll be a study done, I don't know.
I think that would be really important for the residents of Belmar and the Belmar Police Department. I think they deserve that. And I'm sure they have the numbers of the salaries those officers are brought in.
Yes, Brian.
Yes, Brendan Reed, 109th Avenue. To Donna's point about the boardwalk, you know, the weather's nice, the boardwalk naturally booms. I've got full clear view of it from where we live, and I'm on the boardwalk myself, and the weather's like that. I was wondering, though, if when the weather gets decent, temperature gets about 40s, would it be possible to arrange to have the cans out on those dates so that we don't experience the kind of problems that she addresses, which I've also seen when the boardwalk booms as well?
You mean put them out and take them back in?
Yeah, take them out of the day, you know, so, you know, when you have a nice sunny day, temperature gets around that 40s, to say, all right, to really head off a problem before it happens.
We can take a look at it. That sounds like it'd be a lot of manpower.
Yeah, or something along those, you know, see if there's anything could be along those lines, because you don't want to have a situation where the boardwalk is going to look trashy, you know, like even in February, you know, we've had some nice days in February, and I've seen it. A lot of people out there, people just don't know where to put their garbage.
Hey, Brian. Have public comment? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion and adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
So, in favor?
Aye.